The next menu that we'll be discussing is New Measurements, where you'll be spending most of your time with the 6400. Press F4 to enter the menu. When you enter the menu, you'll probably hear the pump turn on, and by default the flow rate is set at 500 micromoles per second, and that can be adjusted as well as all of your other environmental parameters. A little bit about the screen structure of New Measurements. You'll notice that you have 3 lettered lines that appear on the screen. And next to one of those lines, you will see an arrow, and that arrow is your line selector tool. If you press your up and down arrows, you'll see that the location of that line changes. Depending on which line you're selecting, you can change what you're displaying on that line by selecting a different letter. So if I select letter D, you'll see my top line changes to the parameters located on line D. You can scroll through all of the possible lines by pressing your right or left arrows, or if you happen to know the letter of the line you want to go to, you can simply press that letter. The 4 home keys you can program to be a set of 3 lines that you like to look at. By default, if you press the home key, those lines will be set to A, B, and C. If you press page up, you'll notice that they change to G, H, and I, page down, J, K, and L, and the end key is programmed to D, E, and F. If you'd like to change any of these keys, simply set up the display in the order that you would like them to appear, then hold the Control key down while you press the key you want to program. The bottom line in the display we call menu level, and you'll notice that that line is numbered. If you look at menu level 1, you will notice it has a lot of file operations there. You can open a file, you can close a file, you can view a file, and also match mode appears on that line. To change the menu level, you can either press the number of the line you want to go to. If I press number 2, I'll go directly to that. Otherwise, I can press my labels key and it will scroll through all of my possible menu levels. In addition to the text display, there's also a graphics display that can be modified to suit your needs. To get into graphics mode, I'll bring up my keyboard so you can see which keys I'm pressing. If I press my right bracket key, it will toggle me into my graphics mode. And again, if I pressed that same key again, it would bring me back into my digital text display. But now we would like to talk about graphics mode, so I will go back into that mode. You'll notice when you go into graphics mode that there are A through H letters that appear on the side. And there should be a couple of graphs that are running when you go in there. On graph A, by default, it's normally set up for viewing photosynthesis and conductance in strip charts. And these can be modified according to what experiment you are doing. To see what graphs are already defined for you, you can press either the letter of the graph that you want to see, or you can just simply press your down arrow and you can scroll through all of the preset graphs that are in the software for you. When you get to graph F, you should notice that you don't have anything displayed. We can change that if you press the labels key. You'll notice that there is a bottom row that comes up, and this is analogous to our menu level in our text display. If you press the labels key again, you'll notice that F4 turns into edit. Go ahead and select that option. To give you an example, we will set up a graph for a strip chart, and we also set up a graph that is an XY plot. So go ahead and highlight the first one and turn it on by pressing F2. And the first one we'll do is a strip chart. And strip chart simply means that X, our X-axis, is going to be time. For the Y-axis, let's edit that, and we will set this up to monitor photosynthesis. So if you page up, you should find photosynthesis in the list. It's normally a positive 30. There it is. Highlight it, and you can either press Select or Enter. You can set up how you want the graph to scale. Normally, it's set to Auto Min, Auto Max, and that way, whatever data points you have during the time frame specified, you will see all of those data points on the graph. You are allowed to set your minimum difference between your max and min, and that's what this step value is. So if you have a really small parameter like conductance, you may want to change the step value, but for photosynthesis, a step value of 1 is just fine. And that's all there is to it. We can say done, F5, and we want to set up plot number 2, and we will turn it on. This time we're going to set up an XY chart. And for the X-axis, we will go ahead and set photosynthesis again. So if you page up a few times, you should find number 30, photosynthesis. And again, you can either press Select or Enter. And we're not going to change the Auto Min, Auto Max ranging, and the step value of 1 is just fine. We do want to set our X-axis. We'll highlight that and say Edit. And for the X-axis, we'll actually choose Observation. So if you page down a few times, you'll find observation is negative 35. Highlight it and either press Select or Enter. We don't need to change the scaling options. We'll go ahead and keep it Auto Min, Auto Max with a step value of 1. Now we're ready to complete it, so just say Done. And we're only going to set up 2 plots on this graphics plane. Notice there is an option to add a third plot if you would like. Go ahead and say F5 Done. And here you will see our 2 graphs set up for us. On the strip chart, you will notice data appears as a contiguous line. On the XY plot, you'll notice the current data point is a floating triangle, and it's moving around according to the current value on the x-axis compared to the y-axis. As you log a data point, that triangle will turn into a dot, and then the current value will then again be a floating triangle. Other options for graphics, if you press your labels key so that you're looking at level 1, you'll notice that you can go back in time. If I want to continue to keep my range on my strip chart as 2 minutes, I can go back in time, and you'll notice that the x-axis changes. It's not changing. We have a little bug. There it goes. Why is it doing that? Okay, if you press time, you can keep the range of the x-axis the same, but simply go back in time. Or, alternatively, you could zoom in and look at, instead of the past 2 minutes, you could only look at the past 30 seconds, for instance. Or, if you were recording data for many minutes, you could zoom out and take a look at the entire experiment over the past 10 minutes. The amount of data that's kept in the buffer is all defined in the graph setup screen where we were previously. The last item in the graph setup screen is a buffer. So if there's any particular graphics plane that you would like to have more data held in the buffer, say rather than the normal 10 minutes, perhaps you want an entire experiment length, which might be something like 30 or 40 minutes. You could change that buffer so that it reflected the length of your experiment. You can press your right bracket key and you'll be returned back to New Measurements display.